Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my Sunday's Art of Truth for Sunday, May the 11th. That is actually Mother's Day. This is going to be a little bit of a different video. I am not going to talk through it. It will be a voiceover because I'm going to have to slice and dice this because it's going to be a lot of steps. So I'll just talk with you a little bit about the inspiration and then we'll get going, and I'll just be breaking in between for drying and such. So I got these new stencils from Sean Petit and I just love these roses. So I wanted to do kind of a rose, kind of a bouquet type of thing. I'll have to pull a leaf stencil as well, but that is down the road. And then this is another stencil, a new one from her shop that I got recently. So I have a vision in my head about what I want to do, but I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work. So I pulled these papers. These are called She Decided, and they are from Sean Petit's subscriber library. I'm not sure if they're currently in the library. They were at the time that I obtained them, but I've used this paper a lot, especially in my mixed media. It talks about she's taking control of her life and decided to own her journey, her decisions. She wanted to seek adventures that opened her heart, etc. So today is Friday, May the 9th, and I am trying to get this video done for Sunday. It's going to be a push, but I'm hoping that things will flow and I'll be able to move through it very creatively and intuitively. But this really spoke to me, as it often does, because I just made a decision today that I'm going to be backing away from all of the groups that I'm a part of. I'm not going to completely separate, but I am going to be there less often, and I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate about how I spend my time and where I am interacting on social media. So you'll have to wait and see what we do. What my idea is, I want to do kind of this kind of stair-step thing using bits of these words up the canvas. It's a very large canvas, and I'll tell you here in a second the size. I don't usually work this big. I mean, you can see it right there, but that's that. And then I went through because I organized my papers. And so I have a whole bin of my jelly prints. Look at these jelly prints. And they were just buried in the bottom of a bucket. So this one's actually alcohol ink, I believe. And so I'm pulling these out for just a little bit of pop of color. We'll see where we go with that. The rest of the papers are from Sean Petit collage packs. These are things I've collected over the years. I believe this one, there's a photo here that I believe is in her subscriber library. So I may bring in some of those, bring that into the pics. I've got a lot here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to start by laying down some more neutral papers, and then I'm going to do some texturizing, and then we're going to come in or we'll lay spots of other color down, and but I'm trying to think about how I want to proceed with my roses. So I'm feeling like what I need to do is I need to preserve some space. So you may see me kind of pausing and deliberating over how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to start this first layer with just getting some collage papers down. I like to start with that. It kind of takes away the fear of the blank canvas, and it kind of allows me to freely move through the rest of the process. So the inspiration is that's been in my head. Today is Friday. My birthday's tomorrow. I turn 60, and I've been thinking a lot about the fragments of life, and how there are so many interconnecting pieces of our world that make us who we are, but they also interconnect us with other people and our experiences and our emotions and our gifts, and all of those things all intermix to make us the people that we are in our world. And our life is about fragments. You know, we leave a season behind to move to the new season, just as I am doing today by making a concerted effort to I had a friend long ago who used to say, in reference to boundaries, she's like, I'm puppy guarding my time. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm puppy guarding my time. I'm puppy guarding my gifts. And so I'm leaving a chapter behind where it was all about being out there, being visible, being a voice out in the social media, atmosphere, and leaving that chapter behind, just as we leave chapters of raising our children and them going to school, and then they graduate and they go to their dances and they get married, and all that stuff has happened for us. And so I'm in a completely different chapter. And I was thinking about how I want this piece to reflect the chapters of my life, the fragments of my life, which just made me think. I think what I want to do is grab a letter. I have a whole stack of letters about this high, so this high, of letters from my husband from when we were dating. And I think I might find one and do a photocopy and put that in here as well. So all those things get covered up in the layers of the project, but yeah, I want you guys to see what that's going to look like. I think our texturizing is going to have to come after we get our stenciling down, our papers down, so that we can kind of just add some texture in the open spaces so that we don't have trouble doing the flowers and doing the stair step if I choose to go that route. I may not do that. I might just have it be an element off to the side of one side of the panel. This is a wood panel. It's a thick 2-inch tall panel, and I don't have a ruler long enough, but this is 20 inches. It is 20 inches in one direction, and so it's 20 by 16. So 16 by 20. It's very, very large, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start tearing these and getting them on the paper. You're not going to hear me talk again in this video. I will do the voiceover starting now. Okay, we are going to start by tearing all of these beautiful papers down. As I mentioned in the intro, I did select a number of colored images as well as more neutral images. In the end product, as you'll see, a lot of the colors that I had added do not show, but that is pretty normal for my mixed media process. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch here. I'm going to turn the music on and let you just see how I tear down these papers, and then we will get to gluing. Just continuing the last of the collaging here. This is some jelly print that are alcohol inks. I did have a little bit of trouble adhering them to the substrate because the alcohol ink seeped through onto the other side of the paper. So it just took a little bit more work. It was not impossible by any means, but I'm just filling in some other places here. I like to layer up and overlap. Again, as often is the case, these layers don't show. Now you'll be able to see in the final product, if you looked really close, you'll be able to see some of the script that is part of the background papers and such, but a lot of it does not show. The France shows, and then that blue of the sky underneath the word France is very bold in the piece, and so I'm really, really happy that those were the things that stood out. But that again is part of the creative process and the layering process. And I find that the layering is what gets me to the next step. So This is a step that I wish that I had not done or had done differently. So I wanted to push back some of those brighter colors, but I didn't water my gesso down. That was white gesso that I just showed you, and pardon my arm there. White gesso, I should have put it in something and then watered it down, because it pushed back the color so much that it really robbed the piece of the vibrancy that I had hoped for. But again, as we play and experiment, that's how we learn the techniques, and how we learn what we like and do not like, and how to achieve the look and the results that we want. And in this case, I'd never done this before, this part, in terms of gessoing everything. So I should have watered it down, and it would have been fine, but that is okay. The piece turned out beautiful, and now I'm just coming in with a wipe and then some water and paper towel to wipe up that, and see how it just pushes all that back. But my colors were already pretty nondescript, and I think that was mostly the problem. If there had been an image that was a flower or something, it wouldn't have looked so weird at this stage. But again, that is okay. And each time you see me tap my watch, that's my prompt in the video that I'm drying, because when I do a voiceover, I can lose track a little bit when I go back and try to do the voiceover. So now I'm going to come in with a raw umber glaze, not a glaze, a wash. So a glaze is when you mix the acrylic with a matte medium and you get a glaze, which allows you to wipe up a lot of the color that you're putting down. It lets you control that. The wash just is an overall layer of color that is very thinly veiled and really beautiful. The raw umber is my favorite color. You'll see me introduce some other colors later on in the process that are not my favorites, but I do just continue to move through that process until I get the results that I want. Mixed media is a very intuitive and adventurous process, because you never know what you're going to get. And my hands were an absolute disaster. So I love what this wash did, because it did bring in kind of a vintage look. And you can see there's a patchy bit up there in the upper left hand corner where the paper, probably where it didn't have any glue underneath the paper. It actually changed the color of the paper, which I thought was really, really beautiful and unexpected. This is just paper towel. Sometimes it'll leave a little bit of an imprint, but I really just wanted to pick up the extra moisture on the surface. And then we're going to dry one more time. I'm just going to show you a little bit of close-up, I think, here. Yeah. So I love that France showed through, and the sky below that word, and it shows all the way through to the final project, which is absolutely amazing. And I love the wrinkles that I'm seeing in the paper, and you're going to read about that in the blog. So Sunday's Art of Truth, as I mentioned in the intro, is an opportunity for me to share the inspiration behind a particular concept in a particular project. And so you're going to be able to read about that over on the blog, and that will be linked down below in the video description box, where I'm going to talk about the wrinkles and the crevices of darkness and the bricks and the plaster look and all of that we're going to be obtaining here as we continue to move through. So in the intro, I talked about wanting to do some stairs kind of effect on the page. It didn't turn out exactly the way that I had hoped, but I was perfectly happy with it. It still represented the point that I wanted to have. So I'm just tearing it with my tear ruler. So we've got uneven edges, which in the end didn't matter again either, because everything gets covered up and layered over. But with mixed media, you never quite know what the next step is going to be. You know what your current good next step is, or what you think it is at the moment, but sometimes that can change, and it can change the overall effect on your project, which is, again, the magic and the mystery of mixed media art. So just finishing up, tearing those ends off as well, and then we're going to start gluing those down kind of in stair-step fashion. Again, if you would have seen the picture at the beginning of the video and in the thumbnail, they don't really, unless you knew what I was thinking, they don't really look like stairs on the final project. But I'm okay with that. That was the effect I was going for, was stairs, and in my mind I achieved that because I was the one working through the process, which is the fun part. I haven't done mixed media for quite a while, and I haven't done Sunday's Art of Truth for several months, so I was a little bit rusty, and I need to kind of hone in on my skills again. So I'm going to be adhering these papers with my Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium. And so I'm going to go ahead and just turn the music on and let you watch this process, because it's just me basically kind of lining them up, and then we're going to glue them down. Okay, so those are all in place, and as you can see at this point, they do look stair-stepped, but because of the way that I did the focal image, which is the rose, you don't really see that left edge, which kind of takes away from the effect that it is actually stairs, or that was what I was thinking. And I could have done my lines a little bit differently and all of that, but again, I've never done this before, so I was just embracing the creative process and really enjoying where it was taking me and what I was feeling and processing as I went through that. So I did go ahead and dry that, and now I'm going to come in with some alcohol on a baby wipe, and you're going to see I'm going to be able to bring back some of that color in the background pages there. Now, they didn't all come back, and they don't all show. In fact, very little of them, as I mentioned before, show in the final product, but you can see that the alcohol is actually pulling up some of that color that was a part of that wash. So that's another great technique. It can be a little bit risky, especially if what you're working on is very, very precious and you're not quite sure how to resolve an issue. So it's a little bit of a strange technique, but I learned that from Sean Petite over there on her channel. So this is always a color that I go for first, and it's always brighter than I remember it from the last time. It's very, very green yellowish, but it turns out to be a beautiful choice because it lightened up. I'm going to end up putting it over all the stairs, and it left those stairs really, really vibrant in the final piece, and that was really a nice surprise. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch. I am going to be wiping some of that off, but I'm going to turn the music on for a moment. Actually, I'm not turning the music on. I went forward a little bit and saw that I come right in after this and add another color, so I want to be able to talk you through that. So you can see how very yellow it is, but it turns out okay. I'm coming in with some sap green hue. This is also a fluid acrylic from Golden, one of my favorite colors. It's a very transparent, really earthy green, and so I'm just doing the same process with that. I'm going to spread it out over the the whole spread. I think I do avoid the yellow part here, but you'll see that here with me because I recorded this yesterday and today is my birthday. It is Saturday, May the 10th, and I wanted to get this video up for my Sunday's Art of Truth for May 11th. And so yeah, I'm kind of squeezing this in before company arrives. I got all the chores done and everything ready for the party. So I thought I would come on and get this going so that I could upload it while the party is happening. So up there, what I was touching there is I rubbed that too hard and I pulled the paper up. So I'm now down to the wood. So off camera, I took a little bit of matte medium and I put it over a few spots that the paper had come up, and that kind of seals that area, and it's a great resolution in terms of mixed media. I don't know that it would work if you weren't doing mixed media, but I can only speak to that process here today. So, and part of the reason that happened is because I didn't wait long enough for everything to dry. I'm a very impatient crafter when it comes to mixed media, which is kind of ridiculous because mixed media is very, it's got a lot of layers, and if you layer and layer and layer and layer, you bump into that problem where layers below don't dry completely. So that can be very, very frustrating. So I'm just using, this is a Sean Petit stencil. I can't remember the name of it, but I will link it. It's a new one. And so I'm just using some Amsterdam pink paint and painting in the stencil there. The rose itself didn't turn out exactly how I had pictured it, because to me it looked more like a ranunculus flower or something like that because of the way that I painted in. But I haven't done this in such a long time that I kind of lost my way a little bit. But we're going to dry this rose, and then we're going to bring that stencil back and put the leaves on, use the stencil as a template for the leaves. And I was thinking about doing more roses around this one, but it ended up being okay. And I'm starting to stencil those leaves, with, it is green gold fluid acrylic. And it's just, the fluid acrylic is what I had picked out of my drawer, so it's just, I didn't have anything else on hand. You would definitely not need to use an expensive artist acrylic to do this step, but it's what I put out for myself to use. So again, just using the stencil as a guide to stencil in those leaves, and then I'll come back in and refine them, layer them up with a darker green with the sap green hue, and they turn out absolutely beautiful. I love how it turned out, even though it had been a long time since I'd done it. So looking back, it's like, oh, I could have done that differently. But we live and learn, and the process of play is so very important. So there we go. So now I'm going to come in, I'm going to just put a little bit more of that green gold on the leaves, and I'm going to tap right into the sap green hue and bring in some darker passages of green into the leaves, and then I'll be doing the same with the rose. So that part of the video is very long, and so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the music and let you enjoy that while you watch, and I'll come back when I feel like there's a good segue for that. I realized I probably needed to chat more because this length of the video, this portion is very, very long, even though everything is sped up to try to keep it under an hour. So I am going to just chat with you a little bit more. I'm using Golden Artist Acrylic in, I believe it's quinacridone Crimson, and that's going to be my darker pink for the rose. And so you're going to see me going back and forth, kind of this dance between the lights and the darks of both the leaves and the rose, because I wanted to create a lot of depth and dimension. I don't know that I actually achieved that as I would have if I had been doing this for a while. Like, I haven't done this for a while, so but that's okay. So I'm just basically just getting the color on the petals there, and then I will come in with the pink, the light pink again, and I can't figure out what the color is because it's covered up by a label on the tube, so I'm not sure, but it's just an Amsterdam, it's a light pink paint. Amsterdam paint is a pretty good paint for a kind of a craft acrylic. It's okay. And then I'm focusing a lot of the dark color there in the center of the rose because that's where there would be more shadows and such. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let you watch for a little bit longer, and again, I will come back. Okay, just finishing up here with the last touches. I think I do come in again at the very, very end, or maybe even off camera, because sometimes when you step away from a project, you get a little bit of a different viewpoint and a different perspective on what needs to be tweaked. But there's just a close-up of that. And I do come in with some gold paint on top of the rose, as well as some charcoal pencil inside some of those separating, the areas where the stencil separates the segments of the rose, because it's a stencil. So it doesn't look the same in the finished product as it did at this point in the process. So again, as I mentioned, coming back in with that pale pink, just to kind of highlight. I was really struggling with like the balance between the two because again, I'm a little bit rusty. I need to do this more. And as I mentioned in my Beloved Beauty Monthly, as well as on Facebook, I'm going to puppy guard my time a little bit more and spend less time on social media, which will give me a chance to do more mixed media, because I really love doing Sunday's Art of Truth because it keeps me in a growing place in terms of mixed media techniques, as well as being able to share inspiration with you guys about life lessons and things that I'm processing and thinking about that I think and I hope encourage other folks as well as they do me. So I am I'm in the insider group for Sean Petit, and I've been an insider for over 2 years, and I haven't done any of the lessons, which is really ridiculous because I pay $15 a month for something that I haven't used. And so I have got to do that because, one, it's irresponsible to have this and not utilize the tools, and it's just a discipline of kind of prioritizing my time so that I can do a little bit of everything that I love. And this is something that I really love, and I need to learn new skills. So I'm going to be doing some of that as well. So looking forward to exploring her teaching again. I've been binge watching some of her YouTube videos just to refamiliarize myself with some of her older work. I struggle a little bit with her newer work because it's a lot more abstract. I'm not as abstract as she is at this stage in her adventure, but I do like some of her. I'm very drawn to some of her older videos, so I've been binge watching a little bit there as well. So I'm loving how this rose is turning out as I come in again and again with layers of the light and the dark. It's taking on a form now that I think it was missing before, and so I'm super pleased with that. Just coming back in and finessing those leaves a little bit, and then we're going to give it a quick dry so that we can move on. I do not even remember yesterday, so I don't know what the next step is, but we will find out together. So, and here's just a close-up of that rose. And I just love that France shows. I've talked about that often. It has a very big part of my heart, and so yeah, I love that showed in this project, because I'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk to you about why it's called Fragments, why the piece is called Fragments, but I will continue to share the tutorial here first and talk when I'm able to. So I'm going to come in with this numbers. It's numbers jumbled from Sean Petit, and I'm going to use my black archival ink, and I'm going to just start stenciling. Oh, I guess I'm switched. I switched and decided to do the bricks first. I'm going to come back to the numbers. You'll see that here in a bit. I'm going to go ahead and stencil. I wanted some bricks around this lower right hand corner, and I love this. I did go crazy with the bricks as well as crazy with the crackle paint and stuff, but I love how it turned out. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and just talk with you a little bit, give you a sneak peek into the story behind this piece. So Fragments. I know that the definition of fragments is not necessarily what I'm thinking they are. It talks about being a disconnect, division, member, part, piece, portion, section, segment. So I guess it is true in totality that the fragments of our life are things that they happen separately almost. Like I was thinking about like how we graduate high school, so many of us got married, we have children, we raise our children go to school, and then they graduate, then they marry, or they get jobs, and they drive cars, and all of those are all fragments of life. They're fragments that make up the whole picture of our story and our journey. And I love thinking about journey this way, because sometimes I think we want to pick and choose and remember and focus on just the things that were glorious, that were joyful, but all of the pieces, all of the fragments of our journey are part of our story, and they're part of what makes us who we are. I know that is true for me, and so I believe that that's true for most people. Now, of course, nobody wants to dwell on the sad things, but the sad things also form us, and they make us who we are today. They make us resilient. They cause us to be fighters. They teach us so many things. So just did a dry there, and you can read everything. This blog is amazing, I have to say. I really enjoyed writing it because I was able to kind of collect all of my thoughts by looking at the finished piece and looking at this as I was doing the voiceover, remembering how I was feeling about different stages of the project. So I hope that you'll hop over and check it out. Again, that will be linked below in the video description box. So I wanted to come in with some script. This is a script script stencil that I love to use because it's the script is very fine. It's not really bold, and it doesn't take over. So I'm just applying that in various places around the spread. I generally try to do at least 3 places, kind of following that, adding elements and components of things in threes, in odd numbers rather, 3, 5, 7, whatever you prefer. So like even if you look at that rose, it has 5 leaves on it, and that's the beauty and the truth of the odd numbers. It's just, there's something about it that is very pleasing to the eye when people look at it. So just finishing up the stenciling here with that script. I believe that's the last place that I did put it. So things go a little bit south here shortly, because I kind of got a block. Like what did I really want to do next? Now I knew I wanted to come in with this. This is Deco Art Crackle Paint. I love the effect of this. I think that my bottle here was kind of old because it was kind of hard to stir. It's usually way more watery, and it did not crackle as much as it normally would. And so I'm just using a really long palette knife, and I'm crossing over those bricks to create a little bit of interest. And yeah, it just makes the script fit and blend in with the other texture. In the end, it ended up looking really plastery, almost like plastered wall. And again, there's a part of the blog story where I write about like how I interpret plaster, and like how it in my story and in this piece, how it's interacting with the bricks and what that meant to me as I was creating the piece. So I hope that you'll check it out. I did go way overboard with this crackle paint, like way overboard, but again, it's one of those things, like at the time it's sort of like watercolor. When you do watercolor, you have to reserve judgment, like walk away, reserve judgment about whether or not the painting is done, or whether or not you like it. Reserve judgment and come back to it with fresh eyes, because this was a hot mess for me at this stage. I was like, what the heck are you doing, Cara-Renee? Like, what are you doing? What are you trying to achieve here? But I wouldn't change it for anything. Like, it turned out exactly the way it was supposed to turn out. So we're going to go ahead and dry this, and then we're going to move on to the next step. But as you'll be able to see in the photos, it was beautiful, but I did not get the crackle that I expected. And again, I think that the crackle paint is old. I haven't done mixed media for a while, and I guess it can affect the the composition, the working not the composition, the working properties of the material. So I think that's what happened. We did get some cracks, but they weren't as much as I expected, which led to the plaster look that actually was very important to the story. So this time I'm doing a glaze, and a glaze is a combination of acrylic paint and matte medium. And what it does is it creates this, so the matte medium acts as an extender, similar to a glazing medium. It extends the paint, and it makes it so that I can cover this entire thing with this dark brown glaze, and I can come back over it with a baby wipe and completely wipe up where I don't want that brown to be. And it's really, really magical. I scarcely can do a project without doing a glaze. And if you've been watching my videos, you've seen me do it a lot of times. But it's really a very effective process. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my frustration over what that looks like, having there be so much of that plaster look, but I'll come back to that in a quick minute. So here you can tell I could go right in there with a wipe and bring back that yellow, beautiful yellow golden color of those stairs, those words, and now I'm just wiping up the raw umber from other places on the spread. Now, what I don't like about this process, and I need to explore more, is to colorize my texture paste, because then I wouldn't be having the issue that I'm struggling with right now, because I don't like that dingy color. It looks like a brown gray, and it's not white, it's not brown, it's kind of in that pukey middle area, and I don't like it. So this is the point where I got really kind of like, what am I going to do to make that what I look like I want it to look? So I do come in. Some of it you're not going to see in the video because it was an afterthought when I turned the camera off, but you'll be able to see it in the end, and I will talk about it when I get closer to the end of the video. So one of the ideas I had is just to come in with a script stamp and my black archival ink and just stamp on top of some of that texture, which was a great idea, and you can see it in the final piece. You can see that script on those bigger bits of that, what I'm calling plaster areas, where it looks like it's just plaster. Like a wall, like a really, really old wall. But it turned out okay. I do come in, I may as well just go ahead and share it now because you're not going to see it on the video. But when I turned the camera off, I came in with some sap green hue, and I went over a lot of that. Not all of it. Some of it I left more brownish, but some of it turned a little bit, had more of a green tint, which I think was really, was a game changer for the piece. And it caused it to not be thrown in the trash bin. No, this would never have been in the trash bin. I would have just done something on top of it. If I really hated it, I would have just repurposed it. But this is the step where I'm coming in with my makeup brush and some black archival ink and this numbers jumbled stencil. So again, I talk a lot about this in my mixed media in terms of inspiration and what numbers mean to me. For me, numbers always represent time. They represent seasons. It represents gosh, so many things. I'm looking at my notes because truth is failing me, right? Or words are failing me. Time, distance, perspective, the future, the past, time for love, time for hope, time for breathing, time for friends. All of those concepts around, I mean, like what would life be like if we didn't have free time, if we didn't have the passage of time? Because sometimes there are seasons in our lives that are terrible. And what would happen if time just stood still? Like, we would not survive. But we need the hard seasons as much as we need the good seasons. And so time and numbers are always very meaningful to me. So I'm applying them here again to try to dress up, I guess, those plaster bits. It was just a mess. I was sitting here, I was nearly in tears because I was kind of in a time crunch, and I really had something in my mind, but I wasn't able to get it to fruition. And so I was like, I don't know what to do. But at the same time, I noticed that I was able to slow down and reflect on that feeling, and accepting the fact that I would see my fingers tapping. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And so maybe I did do it on, no, this is Payne's Gray. So the other thing that I wanted to do, you guys are probably like, this girl is completely bonkers. I wanted to come in and I wanted to accentuate the bricks. And I love Payne's Gray. It's a really, really rich blue gray. I didn't want them to be brown necessarily. I did come in with some brown as well, but you're going to see me kind of going back and forth. I put it on, I take it off, I put it on, I take it off. I eventually put it on. I also used some raw umber on top of the Payne's Gray, I believe at different points. And then there's going to be a step which I'll talk with you about when we get there, where I'm going to come in with a little bit of that alcohol on my paper towel again, and it's going to allow me to pull off some of that color on the texture. So see that it's the same effect as you're seeing right there in the lower right hand corner, but I do apply more paint on those little bricks. But I'm going to turn the music on because I am, a little bit crazy at the moment, and let you just watch, and I will again talk when it is appropriate. So just finishing up the bricks, I did have to turn the piece over. It is measure 16 by 20, so it was a lot bigger than anything I work on a regular basis. So just finishing up with the Payne's Gray, and then we're going to give this a dry, and then we're going to see together what I did next, because I don't remember. So doesn't that look terrible right now? Like, you could be like, this is terrible, this is terrible, this should go in the trash bin. But I'm promising you, it is worth pushing through and following it through all the way to the end. So now I'm coming in with that little bit of alcohol on top of all those bricks that I just applied the Payne's Gray to. I wanted to make sure the paint was dry, otherwise you're going to be taking off all the paint. So I'm using a very light touch with a little bit of alcohol, rubbing alcohol on my paper towel, and I'm able to pull up some of that paint, and it's because that's texture paste that I created the bricks from. It's got peaks and valleys, and so the alcohol takes off the paint on the peaks, and it creates this really great effect. And again, if you look closely at the photos, probably over on the blog or on my social media, you'll be able to see it more than you'll be able to see it at the end of the video. Perhaps, I'm not sure at this point what the photos are going to look like, but it's a great effect. And I do some of the other repair work I do is using some gold, iridescent gold fine, which you're going to see here in a little bit. So there's just a close-up of that. You can kind of see how those bricks look really distressed, which was what I was going for. So this is a step where I bring in a color that I am not a fan of. I'm not really sure why I chose it, other than I didn't have enough tools right here within my reach, so I just grabbed what I could grab. This is, I believe, burnt sienna. I am not a fan of the orange browns. I like a brown, and so I wasn't a big fan of this. I mean, it doesn't hurt, because with mixed media, it's all just a layer. It gets covered up. It's not a big deal, but I did not like the effect of it at all. So you're going to see me wiping up and just minimizing that quite a bit, and then I'll try something new, which at the moment I don't remember what was next. I should probably do like a 10-point outline, like, oh, you were doing this and then you were doing this. But what fun is that? Like, let's just enjoy this process together, right? So that was just another quick dry as well. And I'm not sure what this is. I think this might be the Payne's Gray again. I can't recall, or it might be the Sap Green. We'll see. It is the it's the raw umber. So yeah, I remember now. So this helped me darken up some of that plaster and bring back some of the darker passages of color to kind of get away from that grayish, pukey, dingy brown that we're left with, where that you can't quite colorize texture paste on its surface with the same results as you could do if you actually stenciled with a color of texture paste. So you can mix acrylic paint with texture paste. You just have to be careful of the ratio of paint to texture paste, because if you add too much paint to texture paste, it will change the working properties of the texture paste. But you can experiment and play and figure out what works for you. I need to do that more. I don't know why. It's something that I don't think about, but I don't. So I'm going to work on that as well. But this really helped it too, and it helped the brown get into more of the crevices and some of those dark valley places within the piece, which again is part of the story, which I will talk about or write about more on the blog, or you'll be able to see it on the blog. I don't want to go into too much of that here verbally, but you can check it out if you are so inclined. And so again, coming in with a little bit of alcohol on my paper towel and just wiping up those bricks one more time, because I did come over them with the raw umber. And I love how the bricks turned out, because they have really dark bits on them, which is the raw umber and the Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is a very dark color as well. But the gold was the winner of the project, which I often use gold as a final finishing touch on my mixed media. But there she is, just a little bit of a close-up there. The panel is so big that it was really hard for me to show you. I'm mostly showing you the upper left and upper right hand corner, because I can't push it further anymore to show you the bottom close up, but you'll be able to see some of that in the photos. So this is iridescent gold fine fluid acrylic, and I'm just putting a little bit of that out on my mat. And I'm just getting my finger just barely wet with that paint, and I'm going over all of the texture. So I'm going to let you watch. I'm going to turn the music on, and I'll be back momentarily. Okay, so just finishing up. Now I realize right now this looks like a hot mess. This does not look anything like the pictures at the beginning of the video, and I realized that. So I didn't actually I couldn't remember if I came back on and did the sap green on top of that the plaster bits of this background, but it was a game changer for this project, as well as I came in with a charcoal pencil and highlighted around the flower and other things. But you're going to be able to see all of that in the photos at the end of the video. So hop on over, check out the blog if you're interested. interested. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Take care. Bye-bye.